This is Kevin Tubby from Broken Flesh, and you're watching The Rooster Show.
Hello, how you doing? Welcome to Rooster Show. This is Bruce Jones. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. It's been a busy day. Got 3 out of 4 done. Not too bad. Tonight we have UnWorthy, a Christian metal band, and we're going to find out about them and see how they are doing. See what's up in the neck of the woods. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Okay, we have success. Well, welcome to the Rooster Show, man. Pleasure to have you.
Yeah, glad to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. And for the record, what is your name and your job in the band?
I'm Dennis Woods. I'm the vocalist for UnWorthy.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Pleasure to have you. And
yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. I really dig your stuff. You got 4 great albums that I know of on iTunes.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, they're excellent. I love every bit of it. Very proud of it.
Thank you so much.
So, are you strictly a Christian band? Is this?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah,
because I keep getting different answers sometimes with other metal artists that say that they kind of go in it with Christian cause and then don't in the long run.
Yeah, I would say so because I feel like our mission is to try to bring our audience closer to Jesus. So, since that's our ultimate goal, I would definitely categorize this as a Christian band. And just as an artist in general, I feel like my faith as a Christian kind of just it just kind of touches everything that I do. So I don't think I can really separate the two.
Exactly. Good. Okay, so now that'll bring us back to the other part. So, okay, what got you into playing music?
Okay, so
are you a musician on top of a vocalist?
Yeah. So I grew up in South Carolina most of my life. I've only been living here in California for about 10 years now, but I grew up in South Carolina. And in high school, I went to like a super tiny Christian school, and I didn't really fit in. I wasn't into like the same kind of music that everybody else listened to. I didn't listen to the contemporary Christian stuff. I didn't really vibe with sports or anything that the people that I went to school with were doing. And when I was about, I would say 13 or 14, I grew up. There was a guy that I was going to church with that got me into playing guitar, and he got me to listen to like Metallica, like a lot of that classic '80s stuff.
Yes.
And one day in high school, I happened to see a kid that was wearing a T-shirt of this band Zayo, and I was like,
Okay.
Zayo, what's that? He goes, oh, it's Christian like metalcore. And I was like, what's that? And he
Yeah,
goes, oh,
yeah.
dude, you just got to check it out. So I went to immediately flock to my Christian bookstore in town and like asked them if they had a rock section. And I found like Norma Jean and Demon Hunter and like Zayo and Living Sacrifice. So I got like big on that like solid state records train. And
Yeah,
not
solid
too long
state.
after
Yep.
that, I met a guy in my hometown who I ended up jamming with, and I found out he was in a band called Through the Eyes of the Dead. And not too long
Okay.
after I hung out with them, I found out that they were like sponsored by like Hot Topic and stuff, and they were huge.
Mm.
So I remember seeing them play like local house shows in our hometown. And when I remember seeing the first time I saw them play at the house show, I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. This is like what I want to do. So I played guitar and I was always trying to find kids to jam with. And I would have like mediocre like success at first with jamming, and like I like the more I played guitar with people, the more I felt like, oh well, maybe I'm like okay at guitar, but I feel like I'm not good enough to like click with a full band when playing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I ended up like one day I was in the car and I was screaming along with some music, and I was like, hey, I can kind of match these vocals for a lot of these bands. So one day I was letting a couple guys hear me, and I was like, do you think I have what it takes to be a vocalist? So I ended up switching to vocals, and then I could
Hmm.
find other musicians to play with, and then I found I was much better at doing vocals than I was guitar. So I started a few local bands, and then after I moved here with I kind of started the idea of Unworthy, and I was initially working with some people back in South Carolina, but it got harder because we had to work with our schedules and being an entire country apart. So eventually I found a buddy that I went to church with who introduced me to Jordan, and that's where kind of Unworthy started, as everybody knows Unworthy now.
Okay. Awesome. So have you gone through a good amount of members, or are you pretty much just you
uh,
two?
yeah, before Jordan I went through like two other guys
Because I see
initially.
pictures of you guys with like four people, then some with two people,
Right. Yeah.
So
So I there might be pictures on our Facebook page of like our original lineup, which was me and I think my buddy Zane, who was kind of the guy that wrote the first Unworthy album, like the
okay.
first official Unworthy EP. I think it was called The Line Between Grace and Truth. He helped me write
Yes.
that.
Okay.
And he was back in South Carolina, and we were gonna have one of my old guitar players from one of my previous bands, Chase. He said he wanted to join, but like right after we kind of started writing the music, he kind of fell off to the wayside, and then it was just me and Zane really working on that first EP together. And then Zane, he got busy starting his own business with his wife, I think. And then after that, I found a guy from another band in South Carolina that I knew pretty well, named Daryl, from a band called Ninja Lou. And he gave me a bunch of unused tracks for the second EP that I did called
That's
Nailed to the
good.
Cross. And I was like, well, I, as much as I, enjoy recording music, like kind of bouncing back and forth to people, I need more stability. So that's when I
Yeah.
started asking around locally here. And one of my buddies at church goes, hey, like, my buddy Jordan just started recording his own music during COVID. Here's his number. Like, I'm sure he'd be glad to like work with you.
Hmm.
So I remember Jordan sent me a few tracks and that he had wrote and recorded, and I was like, dude, this is exactly the sound that I want to go for. So while we were starting to write this first EP together, like both of us kind of had ideas of maybe this is going to be a temporary thing again, like it had been. And then one
Yeah.
day Jordan just asked me out of the blue. He goes, "Hey man, like, are you cool if we like do this like permanently, like make this a mainstay?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, I would be more than happy to make this like a full-fledged project." So we've kind of just been chugging along ever since. It was the two of us until pretty recently, and now we've kind of found the other members, and it's been kind of a tour de force since then.
Yeah, has it been pretty challenging keeping
Uh,
this afloat?
I mean, I wouldn't say so because I feel like the other guys in the band have just been so enthusiastic and just so quick to like pick up the music, and there's just so much, I guess, like excitement with them, and just a willingness to learn quickly. I mean, there it was hardly like, by the first time we had practiced all as a band together, they had pretty much had all the material down and could play through it without any hiccups. So
Huh.
it was like
Is
a
it?
seamless transition.
Yeah. So how about coming up with fresh material? Is it easy or is that challenging? That seems
No,
like it would be challenging to come up with fresh new changes and bridges, and all that good
right.
stuff. That I mean, after a while, it seems like almost everything's already been done for
Right.
metal.
No, it's actually pretty fresh right now. Like this new EP that we're currently working on, um, which we didn't really plan it in a sense. It kind of like sprung up on us. It's a kind of a long story. We were supposed to work on a compilation album, and we contributed a couple songs to it. So we had already had some material previously,
Yeah,
and then the compilation got scrapped. So we were like, oh, well, let's take what we already recorded and expand on it. And now the other guys have been contributing their own music. And it's really cool because, like, I mean, I'm the oldest guy in the band, so I feel like I'm kind of a grandpa behind these guys.
yes, I
They,
can see that. Yes,
yeah, yeah. So they've got like,
just play
I
with
mean,
you.
they've got, their own little studio
You old
setups at
guy.
their house. And like, I'm part of their group chat, and they're always texting each other, hey, like, I wrote an entire demo last night. Like, I want you guys to hear it. And then, like, one of the other guys will be like, hey, I added some stuff to it. Or, they're always bouncing ideas off of each other. So
That's good.
I feel like it's actually becoming easier now for us to write material, because where it was just Jordan who was the main idea contributor, and then I would just throw
Yeah,
my lyrics on it. Now Jordan has Eli, Anthony, and even Zach now all contributing music and their ideas.
everybody's realizing what they can contribute to
Right.
each track.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and coming
all
up
the
with their
guys.
own versions of it and coming up. Yeah, that's
Yeah, and
good.
all the guys are like masters at their own craft. Like it's really crazy.
Yeah, I love rap music, but metal has like always been one of those things that um been a little hard for me.
Right.
Like it's so darn fast. As
Yeah.
I've always been punk, goth, rockish, punkish.
Yeah.
But my
Like I could.
always my secret best music to go to though. I've always loved that the white light music. That mortification, vengeance
Yeah.
rising, living sacrifice.
Old school
Believer,
stuff. Yeah.
sacrament, seventh angel. All
Oh
that
yeah.
stuff is like my heart. I mean, I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. Could go to bed with it, knowing that I'm going to bed listening to peaceful music,
Right.
things that are uplifting
Right. I think and
instead
that
of instead of closing my eyes to darkness.
right.
You
I
know what
think
I
that
mean?
yeah, and when I grew up in South Carolina, like, I grew up in a tiny Christian community, and I felt like a lot of people looked down on that.
Uh
But
huh.
like with my family specifically, I felt like my family never really judged. In fact, I remember my grandparents, before I could even drive, would take me to like see bands like the Chariot and Norma Jean and Zayo and all that live, and they never had a problem with it. And in fact, I remember like the first we actually drove me to see Zayo. We happened to see their vocalist Dan walking down the street from the venue to a gas station that we just happened to also be pulling into. So I was like, hey, like, the venue's like a few miles down the road. If you don't want to walk, my grandparents said they would be happy to give you a ride. And he's
Yeah.
like, are you sure about that? And I was like, yeah, my grandparents would love to give you a ride back to the venue. So,
That's
and I remember
awesome.
my grandparents were sitting there just having a casual conversation with them. But, that's, yeah, I like they never really saw that music or anything like that as anything wrong, or
That's
and
good.
they realize that just like with anything, it's a tool, and it's what's done with it that really determines whether it's good or bad. It's not the music in and of itself.
Exactly. Yeah. And I kind of relate with you real quick about when it came to contemporary music. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
some good stuff out there. Twyla Paris, Sandy Patty, Michael W. Smith, whatever, and
yeah,
Phil Kagi. Phil Kagi was really good with guitar, So I mean, there's like a lot of great people that are out there, And I'm not saying I didn't go to my share of my concerts. I did. I even seen Keith
yeah.
Green's wife, Melody Green, her live,
Oh, cool.
and all that. It was cool. I mean, and I love
Yeah,
Keith Green. I still do. But
yeah.
I
Jordan's actually
realized,
texting me right now. Hold on. I'm just going to tell him I'm already on the call with you.
okay,
Yeah, sorry about that.
it's all right. And but I relate with you because I've always been a little different myself. So one of my earlier bands was Man at the World,
Oh, cool.
and then The Crucified. That was my
Oh, yeah.
first punk rock band. And then
Nice.
Michael Knott from Lifesavers Underground. That was my other main band. They were goth rock, So it's
Oh,
like
cool.
kind of it's yeah. If you've never heard them, Lifesavers Underground, you never heard of them?
No, I'll have to check it out.
I'll send you a link to a
Yeah.
couple tracks that are fabulous. You
Okay.
must hear. And they're goth rocky, I mean,
Oh, nice.
he's Christian. It's Christian.
Oh,
So I
sweet.
mean, I mean, I'm a true believer. Yes, I do secular bands, Christian bands on the show, but I really believe it's important to be in touch with your spirituality.
Oh, of
So
course.
I think I find this awesome that you love the Lord and that you are trying to go that route. And honestly, it takes a little bit of balls, so to say. So to do
Oh,
that,
yeah.
especially
Yeah.
in this scene. So pardon me saying that, but that was the only word that came to my head.
No, it kind of reminds me of a story, actually. Of a band on Tooth and Nail called Sent by Ravens.
Okay.
They were kind of like an alternative band in the early 2000s, but they were from my hometown, and I remember seeing them play with a lot of our local metal bands in town, like Through the Eyes of
Oh
the
yeah.
Dead. Through the Eyes of the Dead had a side band that kind of spawned off of them called From Graves of Valor, and From Graves of Valor's lyrics were blasphemous to say the least. And I remember they were playing a show one night, and I happened to show up, and I was wearing like a cross necklace with like the crucifix more specifically, and I was wearing like a Christian band shirt. And I remember the lead singer of Sent by Ravens came up to me, and he goes, "Hey man, like props for you, like being in this scene and not being afraid to like sport like
That your light
Christian
shine.
clothing."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because he was like, "Yeah, man," he's like, "I don't think any of these bands that we're playing with like give a crap about what we're about."
And greater is he that is in us than he that's in the world.
Oh yeah,
So who do we have to fear?
exactly. Yeah.
Really? I mean, seriously. So and yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Remember that people had to talk about your logo. Remember
Yes.
that?
Yes. Yeah.
So if you want
I
to
think that was.
clarify that with anybody, go ahead right now.
Yeah.
Uh,
So. Yeah, when I first came up with the idea for Unworthy, that was the one of the things I wanted was that inverted cross in the logo.
and I love the one that's behind me right now.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I think that's what we
It's
ended
a
up.
great logo.
Yeah, we ended up changing that when we changed our direct sound direction a little bit more. But we always wanted that upside down cross. And of course, according to biblical tradition and biblical history, it's believed that Peter was crucified upside down because he found
Yes,
himself unworthy to be crucified in the same manner as Jesus.
you're
So
right.
the
Yep.
traditionally the inverted cross was a symbol of humility, and that's kind of what I wanted this whole band to be about, is about no egos, all humility, realizing that without Jesus we're all on the same level. The only thing that separates us is Jesus is the dividing line. There's nothing else that
Yep.
there's nothing else that differentiates us.
That's right. And what made you want to go this route in your life as a Christian? I mean, you could have gone any way you wanted to, but you chose this life.
I mean, I've always been raised in a Christian household, more or
Okay.
less. I grew up in South Carolina. My family put me through Christian schools.
That's right. Okay.
Not to say that there haven't been times in life where I've been disillusioned with the church.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up in small Southern churches, I've seen the dirty side of church. I've
Oh
seen,
yeah.
yeah, I grew up in an all white church, and I've seen things like racism, politics, things like that seep its way into the church. I've
Yes,
seen
they
church
do.
fall apart, and it can make you very bitter.
There's egos too.
Yeah, and
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. Yep.
yeah. But on the other hand, I've also seen, when church is at its best. I've seen the church
That's
in
right.
motion. I've seen when the church is successful, and I'm reminded, hey, like, there are good days and bad days, but it's like those good days that remind me this is why I'm here. Um, I've volunteered at a church about a year and a half after I moved here. I found a church that I started going to. It was a brand new church plant, and I remember telling somebody I was because when I would fly back to South Carolina, people would go, "Well, how are things in liberal California?" And I was like,
Oh,
"Man, I'm going to a church that I see people coming in off the streets." Hearing the gospel and then raising their hands to accept Jesus Christ as Savior, and I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world.
it's true.
Yeah,
It is a
and
good feeling. I have to admit, it is a good
it's
feeling.
yeah, it's something you never get used to. And
No,
you
there's
know,
stories that I will never forget. I cherish for my whole life because I knew that it was God's hand
yeah,
intervening. You know what I mean? So, and he works in very mysterious ways.
yeah.
And
If I remember one of the bands that I played in back in South Carolina. Um, I had we had played with there was another band we were doing a show with one night, and I remember their drummer was telling me about how he made his money selling and manufacturing meth. And he's like, yeah, I know you guys are Christian, and it's really cool that you're okay with playing with us, knowing what we're about. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm just, here, just kind of letting our message just speak for itself. And he's like, oh, it's real cool. And I remember he was wasted. He had a bottle of Jack Daniels in his hand. And he was like, look, everybody, this guy's a Christian, but he's like cool with playing with us. Mad respect for that. And I remember, about a year or two later, their band broke up. My band broke up. And I saw them somewhere at another show with some different bands, and I was like, hey man, like I heard you guys broke up, my band broke up, that really sucks. And I was like, I'm sorry to hear your band broke up because I know that playing drums meant the world to you. And he goes, it doesn't matter anymore, man, Jesus is what matters. And I was like, say what? And he goes, yeah man,
ooh,
he's like, I just got it, he's like, a couple weeks ago I just started going to this church. And he's like, I don't know what happened, but he's like, I couldn't leave the parking lot that day without stopping at the stoplight. And he's like, I had to pray to accept Jesus because I was so moved by the pastor's sermon. And he goes, I went back the next Sunday and I had to get baptized. And he's like, I went home and he's like, I flushed all my meth and weed and cocaine and everything that I had. And I was like, dude, this is not the same guy that I knew like a year ago. And I remember we ended up starting a band together, and I could see like how Jesus worked in him.
yeah,
And one of my buddies texted me a couple weeks ago that he saw him at church, and he's still serving with teenagers. And I was like, "Hey, man, that's awesome to know that Jesus is still working in his life after all these years."
yep, that's cool, man. So, do you feel that this is a ministry,
Yeah,
so to say?
I definitely would say it
I
is.
mean, you go that far to say that. That's
Yeah,
good.
I mean, I try to give like some sort of invitation during for the shows that we have been playing. I try to tell people that we're not there to force any message on them, but we're there to give an invitation. And if they have questions, if they need someone to pray for them, if they need someone to talk to, we're there for them.
That's cool. That's
And
right.
and I, what I love is, sometimes we'll go on, if I go on our YouTube channel and I will see comments on some of our lyric videos where people will say, hey, like, you have no idea like how much these lyrics mean to me, or how much these lyrics spoke to me, or what I was going through at the time I heard your music, and how that kind of helped me out of the rut that I was in. So, at one time I thought that I was writing some of those lyrics for myself, especially with our most recent EP, This Present Darkness. But then to see other people who were like, hey, like, I went through that too. And like, I needed that just as much as you needed that. It's amazing to know that we're reaching people with our message.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a lot of hurting people out there,
Oh, of course.
and
Yeah.
I mean, and we've been through our situations. I
Oh,
can
yeah.
deal with the meth. I know about that. I lived that life for many years, over 15 years or so of meth in my life. Horrible. It's bad.
Yeah.
And OD'd several times,
Oh,
so I
wow.
understand about all that horrible crap. So blessed to be set free from that, and grateful for that. So definitely, so I understand what you're getting at with that, man. I appreciate you sharing. That
Yeah,
was
of
cool.
course.
Yeah, definitely, man. So do you how you doing show wise? You guys are able to perform? Do you have a lot of
Yeah.
venues?
Yeah, so thankfully, now that we've added Anthony, Zach, and Eli, we've been able to finally have a lineup where we could play shows. We used to get questions all the time on our social media pages. Hey, when are you
Yeah.
guys playing live? Like, would love to see you live. So we now have the opportunity to play. And Southern California, much unlike South Carolina, where I grew up, there's a lot more venues out here, a lot more places to host bands to play. So there have been a lot of opportunities over the last few months for us to play shows. So
Oh,
we're
good
playing
for you.
consistently about once a month right now. Um, Jordan and I and Eli, we're all married. Eli and Jordan both have kids. So, it's not, I don't think it's in our wheelhouse to really travel or
Yeah.
tour extensively, but it's nice that we can still play around the area for people that are able to see us around here.
So how many shows have you done? Is your eye okay?
Yeah, sorry. I think I got like an eyelash in my eye. At first, I thought I was like getting choked up and emotional over like my
That's how you
story.
get pink eye there, young man.
Oh, no, 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 no. It's an eyelash. But yeah, I'm trying to think how many we played. I think we played twice at Chain Reaction, played that house show in San Bernardino. 3 or 4 shows maybe.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So do you get jitters being up on stage a little bit?
Not anymore. Like, especially with this band, like when we played our first show together, I was more excited than anything because it had been so long since I'd been on stage.
Yeah.
So, and I think with more knowing that already that our first show, I think we were headlining actually, which was cool. So like I think the knowing that going in, I think there was
Yeah.
just like, oh, like they're already here to see us. Like we already know what the crowd's expecting. I think that was like way, that got me more hyped than anything.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
in the one
That's
of the
awesome.
first
Good for you.
yeah, sorry. Something's in my eyes, man. I don't know what it is. But we did eat like tacos
It's
and
okay to
salsa.
get emotional on my show.
No, we
Okay, it's
ate
all right.
tacos and salsa for my wife's sister's birthday, and I think I had traces of
Bro hug.
salsa on my fingers.
Oh,
And
I hate it.
my wife's family are Mexican, so they like make their own
Yeah.
salsa. So
Oh,
I
I,
think I
I eat
got some chili in
habaneros
my
like
eye.
almost every meal.
Yeah, so
I mean, yeah, I
I
get
think
you.
I think I got some serrano chili or something in my eye.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah. I do
yeah,
that
I remember the
too
first
much.
time I played a show with one of my first bands. We opened for our friends Sent by Ravens, and it was a completely different genre of music. So I was like, oh,
Sorry.
yeah, so nobody that wants to see Sent by Ravens wants to see my band. So I remember I was terrified to play. But I think the more that I got comfortable playing shows, the less I got nervous. So now it's just kind of like second nature to me.
It's cool because I mean that's the one that you were talking about that is kind of satanic.
No, Sent by Ravens they were a Christian alternative rock
Oh,
band.
that's the Christian
But they
altar.
played
Okay.
with we all played in the same circle with
Oh, okay.
there were some bands in our hometown that had some pretty blasphemous lyrics though.
Yeah, that's what the one I was getting at. Just
Yeah,
playing
that
again
was a band called From
up with
Graves of
someone like
Valor.
that. What was
Yeah,
that?
that was the band Graves of Valor.
Okay, Graves of Valor.
Yeah,
That's a pretty cool name.
I'm still friends with their guitar player, but um, he's a good dude. I still talk to him every now and then.
That's awesome. I mean, it would be kind of interesting, like this. It's some pretty dark, heavy stuff that's involved with metal music.
Oh yeah,
Really, and you can really feel that heaviness in
right.
some of those bands. I mean, that are proclaiming that the other side.
Oh yeah,
So I mean, the funny thing is, I can really feel a good positive vibe. Not only from your music, but from all those other bands that I mentioned earlier. I mean, like I said, I could go to bed peacefully,
right.
having it blaring, and sleep like a little baby,
Yeah,
you know, knowing that I'm being fed, my soul is being fed, no matter what. I mean, even if I don't understand the lyrics, my soul's still being fed.
yeah.
Is the way I look at it, and that's
That,
something I think that I enjoyed and I appreciated about the metal music scene. The bands that did well. I mean, there were some that weren't that great, but
I think
I commend them for trying, though.
yeah, and I think that's a negative stereotype that a lot of people think when they hear metal bands is, oh, it's just a bunch of moshing at shows and people
Yeah.
going crazy. But I remember like seeing For Today, for example, seeing them live, and we covered one of For Today's songs recently. I think that was the first song we recorded as a full band too.
Oh, okay.
Their song Isaiah the Willing. But I remember the first time I saw them live was at Scream the Prayer Festival. And I remember they finished with the song was called Taladom the Servant. And it was a slow song. And they were like, and during the song, I remember seeing prayer circles forming. And
Oh,
people were actually praying together during the song, and
that's
it became a
cool.
worship session, and it was less of a concert more than it was a worship session.
That's awesome.
And the same thing happened when I saw Sleeping Giant once too. Like I remember Tommy was like, hey, we're gonna play our song, oh, what am I forgetting, Tithamy. And he's like, hey, like, like, I don't want you to mosh during this song, I want you to lift your hands and praise the Lord. And I remember, like, you could feel the spirit like moving in
Yeah,
that show. And I
that's
was
awesome.
like, dude,
It's a
this
good
is
feeling.
it's really like, man, this is more than a concert. This is literally a spiritual experience.
That's awesome. That's when you know that you're at the right place, the right time,
Yeah,
doing what you're supposed to be doing. You know what I
It-
mean?
yeah. And going
And that's
back,
a good feeling.
yeah, and
Because
going back to that question about if I was nervous playing shows with UnWorthy, the first show we played when we headlined, not that I was not saying I'm nervous, but what really like caught me off guard was there were a couple songs where I heard the audience screaming the lyrics back to me, and
oh
I was like, what is this feeling that I'm getting? Like, I kind of got like goosebumps because I'd never had an experience like that where people were actually reciting my lyrics. Or and I remember during our last song, "Forsaken by God," I saw a guy who was like literally like, raising his hands, and he was praying, and like during the one of the lines of the song, and I could see him screaming the lyrics, and I could see the look on his face, like it, like it moved him, and I was like, wow,
yeah,
like I never experienced that before, and to know that there are people that were being moved by our lyrics just hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah. So don't stop what you're doing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? You're
it really
you're on the path that you're supposed to be on.
yeah,
So
it's a reminder of why we do what we do.
exactly, because what I mean, even if you lead one to Christ,
It's all
it'd
worth
be
it.
worth it. But even more than that is even icing on the cake.
Yeah,
I mean, what a joy, and that's awesome. That's cool. That's good to hear. Yeah, I mean, and to go back to being humble about it, staying humble is
right,
the key thing, I think, because I mean, anybody can get that rock and roll attitude, and I mean, really, who doesn't want that attention when they're on the stage, anyways? So it could get to our head,
right, and
because I like to play on stage too. I mean, I've done it a few times, and it's an incredible feeling, especially seeing people reacting and dancing to your stuff, and chanting it. It's
yeah.
a really a cool feeling,
It's definitely
and
something I fight with
so
is like you said, not letting it get to your head. Because I remember, going back to South Carolina when I played in local bands, there were times that I had that mentality of, oh, I can scream with the best stuff. Well, I can sound like this guy, I can sound like that guy.
yeah,
Like, oh, I'm a top tier death metal core vocalist. Like, ain't nobody touching us. Like, having that. Oh, listen to how heavy our riffs are. Like, if people only saw us live, they knew how good our band was. And now it's like, I'm almost 40 years old and I'm like, man, like I'm old. I'm like realizing, dude, anybody can do what I can do. Like it doesn't take a rocket scientist or like some classically trained vocalist to be able to pull off what I can pull off. And
yeah,
like people, even if somebody comes up and goes, dude, how do you do what you do? I'm like, it's not really that hard. You can find some, and like, I'll even now, like one of the things I do is, you know, uh, I realize, hey, like there's still more I can learn about what I do as a vocalist. So I will look up, other vocalists on YouTube and kind of watch instructional videos. And
yeah.
so if somebody asks me, I'm like, always be willing to learn and realize that you're never going to get to a point where you're like perfect in your talent. Like there's always room for improvement.
Exactly. There is definitely, definitely. That's yeah. Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord. He will lift you
Yeah,
up.
exactly.
All that good stuff. Yeah, but yeah, definitely. There's always room for improvement. Definitely.
Yeah.
So, anybody you like to thank for your success so far?
Oh man. Too many. I mean, yeah, like I said, I definitely think a lot of the local bands that back in South Carolina that kind of helped pave the way for me wanting to play music or
Yeah,
helped get us on shows. Like my buddies Sent by Ravens, we played multiple shows with them. They helped my bands get lots of exposure because of being able to open for them at some pretty big shows. Um, my buddies in Through the Eyes of the Dead and From Graves of Valor, even though I don't see eye to eye with From Graves of Valor's lyrics, as I mentioned earlier, but I
yeah,
still
of
love
course.
guys as friends, and
Yeah, you
their
still
guitar,
respect them.
yeah, their guitar players were very instrumental in a lot of the guitar playing that I did in
Yeah,
college. So they did a lot to teach me how to play guitar. So I really love those guys.
of course.
Obviously, Jordan, taking Unworthy and help molding it what it is. Um, our buddy Manny, the guy who introduced me in Jordan. So anytime that we kind of give a shout out, we always mention our buddy Manny because without him, Unworthy would have never continued like it did. Definitely think I would say our wives because our wives have to put up with our
Oh
schedule.
yeah, yeah. They're our managers. You mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And our wives have become our
They
merch
were our
people.
wives. Now they're our managers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And they put up with a lot. As soon as we played our first show, Jordan's wife, my wife, they were running the merch table. They were taking care of
That's
everything.
awesome. That's
So
good.
yeah, I mean, they definitely have put up with a lot. I'm not an easy person to deal with sometimes. So my wife has the patience of a saint.
Are you stubborn? Are you trying to say that?
Not as much as I used to be, but I
Hey,
could
and
be.
I also gotta say you didn't give thanks to the one and only, man.
Oh yeah, and of course,
I was
yeah,
expecting you to say that.
yeah. Forgive me. Yes, yes. Obviously, big props to the Lord. He's the one. Yeah, he put more than so than my wife. He's put up the most in my life.
Yes, I
And,
agree. My
just a,
God, yeah, our God has definitely put up with me too, and
and
I
the
have to say it. I want to say this real quick. I love the Lord with all my heart, and I'm very
amen.
grateful for my wife of 25 years
Oh,
and
nice.
son. He's gonna be
Congrats.
24 coming up.
Oh wow.
25. Yeah, 25. So almost 26 for my wife. Oh my Lord, poor girl.
Yeah. We're
So
coming up on 9 years of marriage, but we've known each other for over 20. So
sorry, honey. Yes. So well, congrats to you.
yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, you won't catch up to me though. I'm too far ahead. More
No.
rock, less cock. Here on the Rooster Show, we had UnWorthy. And I thank you, my brother, for being here.
Yeah,
And
man.
let me know when you get a new album out. Maybe we can get together and we can promote it, do a little recording. You can
We
talk
are
about every track and all that good stuff. Okay.
Yeah, we currently have one in the works, so hopefully sometime this year you'll hear more from us.
Yep, definitely. Keep in contact.
Yeah, man.
Hey, I'm just a text away, a message away, buddy.
Yeah, dude.
Always
Appreciate
pick
it.
up. Yep. God bless. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, you too, man. Have a good one.
You too. Bye bye. Thank you.